Hello, I'm Jake from IGN, and today we're going to be upgrading this PC for stunning 4K visuals. Now, I'm not exactly an expert in the field myself, so I've got Mr. Alex Donaldson from VG247 to take me through the process. And we're going to be upgrading basically everything in the PC, right, with parts provided by Asus, including a lovely NVIDIA graphics card. There's a couple of games I'm really excited about, like Black Myth Wukong, that I want to make sure that I've got the right specs to really get the most out of, because I hear that it's going to be absolutely beautiful. So, Alex, welcome to the IGN studio. Pleasure to have you. Where are we going to get started with this? How are we going to kick off?
Well, I mean, how long's a piece of string, right? Building a PC, there's a lot of things to do. First thing we've got to do is actually just take this apart, have a look at what you've got in there, and start getting into it. The heart of it all is the graphics card, but beyond that, it's just going to be better all the way around.
Yeah.
So looking in your old build, you've got a 2080 in here. Now that's a pretty good card, but that's 2 generations old now, and you're going to a 4070 Ti Super.
What is this going to do for us in this PC?
I mean, in terms of gaming, almost everything. It's the newest generation. It's one of the higher end cards in this new generation. For instance, if you've got a 20 series card, you're only going to get access to the slightly older versions of DLSS. This will give you DLSS 3 and DLSS 3.5. It's going to give you a lot of the newest and hottest features. And if you talk about buzzwords in the PC gaming space, the things that people get excited about on a techie level, this is the sort of card that's driving that stuff. It's going to be a big upgrade, probably beyond your expectations.
Nice.
So through the magic of jump cuts, we now have an empty case, or an almost empty case. Yeah. We've taken all the old stuff out. I've sort of cheated a little bit for you, and I've prepped some stuff. So we've got the motherboard in here. You'll see there's a bit of a spaghetti junction of cables. That is all stuff that's attached to the case. So this is stuff that will stay, and it will help your USB ports and your power and stuff on your case to work. But other than that, this is the basics. The motherboard's in, 7/8 screws, really easy. And now we start with the actual build.
This gorgeous new Tough Gaming motherboard, what's that going to do for us as a foundation?
Well, I mean, motherboard is the soul of the computer. It's where it all begins, and this is what everything else plugs into, right? It's also got PCIe 5, which this is something where we could get into long, complicated technical explanations, but let me just put it like this. It's quicker. So first things first, let's get the brain of the PC in. So that's the processor. So we've got a new processor that's quite a bit more powerful than your previous one. I'm gonna pop this open for you though, because you're already holding it. Now, these are quite good now because there's little notches, you see, and they actually prevent you from putting that in the wrong way, which used to be how some people would go wrong.
So now that I've expertly fitted a processor, where do you think we're going to start next?
You could go in any direction, but we're going to be slightly unconventional. I want to put the power supply in next. I like to know what I'm working with in the case space-wise, and this is one of the bigger parts. The reason we can put this in sooner, though, is it's actually a modular power supply. Right. So you see here you have ports rather than a bunch of cables coming out the back.
Right.
So the idea is you only plug in the cables that you actually need to use. You don't have this huge ribbon of cables, some of which you're using, some of which you're not.
Right.
So I would put this in.
Start with the big parts, know how much room we're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it's got these bracket hooks here.
So yeah, you want to hook it on the brackets. I'd say the middle set of brackets, the second up.
Okay, cool. Good space planning.
We've now got a couple of screws which just secure it. So if I just put a hand to it from the back, if you just want to pop those screws in.
It's crazy how small this hard drive is.
Yeah, and the amount of storage you get. I remember when hard drives used to be just enormous for even half a gig. But this was in the old PC, which means all your games and stuff are still on there. And hopefully when we boot it, Windows will probably kick up a small fuss about license keys and stuff, but you'll be able to get ready and go in without a new install and stuff. It'll be super, super quick.
All my saves.
But anyway, that just goes into there. This is actually a PCIe 4.0 drive as well, and that's something that, although it was compatible with your old motherboard, this motherboard actually supports the full speed of it. So you'll actually probably notice some faster load speeds and stuff as well.
So next up we have cooling, right? And what makes up that kind of system?
There's lots of different options. We today are going for a combination of fans and an all-in-one cooler, and that means it's an all-in-one solution. Normal fans, a very quick note on these. There's an in and an out. So typically on most fans, this side that doesn't have any grills, that doesn't have any any extra bits but has a sticker is the in, so
that's the
air
air
gets
in.
sucked in that way and then pushed out that way. And the thing you just want to think about is an airflow through your PC. So for instance, if you've got your all-in-one cooler here, where the fans are pointing up into the radiator to help push air out of the PC and to cool the liquid that's meeting the radiator, your other fans on the bottom of the case, we're going to be facing them to pull air into the case, to pull cool air into the case, so it flows over all the parts and gets expelled out of the top. So this cooler now has to actually make contact with the processor, so it can actually take that heat,
Draw heat
and dissipate it. There's a lot of ways we do this. We're using thermal compound or thermal paste today. There are more complicated things. Some people use liquid metal and stuff. I would save that for the more hardcore builds. But basically what you need to do is we've got a little syringe here, and you need to give it the good stuff, about a pea.
I mean, there it is. I think that's about bang on, right?
Yeah, it looks all right to me. I mean, people will have intense opinions about this. You know, nothing divides like personal opinion.
Well, if you have an intense thermal paste preference and you're heading down to the comments to tell me that you don't like mine, I did my best. Be kind. Okay, cool. So it's this way up with the two cables at the top.
Yeah,
right?
and we've got these pegs in, and those I've preset for you. All you've got to do is line the holes on that up, just pop it on, looks like you're going fine there, and then you've got 4 screws.
So, RAM.
It's random access memory. Basically, when you're playing a game, stuff might get loaded into the RAM so it can access it quickly. So loads from the hard drive to the RAM, etc., etc. So basically, it's important memory that gets used all the time when you're using the computer, and you basically want as much as possible. Okay. So here we've got a couple of sticks. It goes in here. A good pro tip is these are color coded. Always do, if you've only got 2 sticks, do 2 of the same color. So in this instance, you would do either 1 in each gray or 1 in each black. So we're getting towards the end now, and I've pulled this up. So we talked earlier about the modular power supply.
Yeah.
So this is what plugs into the power supply and then plugs into the computer. These are, we mentioned earlier that this is a high-end power supply. This has the new 5th generation of cables. The cables are fit. It is the same amount of power that goes through them. So they're not actually more powerful, but they're smaller, thinner.
Right.
And that makes routing the cables through a PC and through a case, especially a case that's slightly smaller like this one, just way
All the
easier.
difference. So now it's time for the grand finale. Time to put in the beautiful NVIDIA GeForce graphics card. A little refresher on what this is going to do for us compared to the old PC.
Well, it's just a huge power boost for you guys. Save the best till last. It's a great card. It's the current generation. It's one of the higher tier of the current generation. And it's going to give you access to a lot of new features that you didn't have. I mean, the card that you had before was a 20 series and was therefore still quite good. You know, if you were to look at like the Steam hardware survey, for instance, you'd see a lot of people aren't even on the 20 series yet. But if you want to be super up to date, the 20 series is actually starting to show its age. This will give you DLSS 3 and DLSS 3.5. So what is DLSS, right? DLSS is deep learning super sampling. What this basically means is AI neural network stuff has been trained to help upscale games. Upscaling can be a dirty word because in PC gaming, a lot of times people want to run stuff native.
Yeah.
I want native 4K, that's what people say, right? But native can be quite difficult, especially if you're cranking up ray tracing, all this stuff that's really, really intense on a graphics card. You might render Cyberpunk at, say, 2K instead of 4K, or maybe even as low as 1440p. But what DLSS does is it takes that signal that gets output and does some very, very impressive upscaling. And the result is an output image that is native 4K. It's not really native 4K, but in terms of the visual difference between the two, it's gonna be pretty close.
So it's kind of getting those 4K visuals with only using the processing power of kind of like 2K.
The idea is you're offloading some of the rendering, the rasterization, by rendering at a lower resolution, but then this DLSS service, mechanic, whatever you want to call it, is stepping in to make that look like a native 4K image. And it's so good in many games that it's compatible with, And this is a software-based solution to some degree, so the results are going to vary from game to game based on how it's implemented. It's not compatible with all games, but NVIDIA's got a huge list, hundreds of games that are compatible, and that's growing all the time. So it will vary, but in the best cases, it's practically indistinguishable from a native 4K image. It enables you to turn on DLSS, which is, in my opinion, a game-changing feature, but also you're getting the best version of it.
Okay, here we are. We're done, right? Like,
We
time
are
to just
done.
test it
I
out.
mean, we haven't put this side on, but we've done that sort of deliberately.
Yeah.
We want to be able to
a
see
tasteful
it.
shot for everyone to be able to
It's
see.
also, to be fair, until you actually turn it on, it's better not to put the sides on. I feel like it's a jinx in case it doesn't work. So,
See if it turns on.
press the
right?
power button, see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. It is.
Oh,
there we go.
nice.
So, yeah.
So now we know that it's happy and healthy and it's all functioning. I want to see how the games look. Asus has given us this lovely 4K monitor to see how this new PC performs.
Yeah, it's a beast setup. It's a beastly monitor, it's a beastly PC. We'll do a little bit more configuration off camera, just get Windows going, and then we'll start playing games. Going from a 20 series to a 40 series, it's a 2-generation leap, so we should see some pretty significant gains.
In Cyberpunk, you can see on our original PC, when using the default settings, you only get an average of 42 FPS, and that's with ray tracing set to low, compared to the new PC, which at its default setting is giving us 79 FPS. Also, with our new 40 series graphics card, we can use DLSS ray reconstruction to improve the quality of the ray tracing with AI. That our old card couldn't do. And only in the 40 series, we can use DLSS frame generation, which generates entire frames in real time. You can see the difference in the quality of the puddle here, that's night and day. Next is Ghost of Tsushima, which on our original PC at the very high graphics setting, you're getting between 25 to 45 FPS, with it slowing down once you get into fights, compared to a consistent 60 FPS with beautiful visuals. Just look how clean that combat is, especially this lovely headshot. And when comparing the two, you're getting no frame drops on our new PC.
Well, Alex, thank you. This has been
You're
a lot
welcome.
of fun, and I think
Yeah.
that you were right. Like, it's kind of, you know, like Lego in a way, right?
It's easier
only
than
gonna
it
go,
looks.
yeah, easier than it looks. It can only go where it's going to go. And now that the PC's got that lovely new NVIDIA card in it, I'm going to be ready for all the latest games that are compatible with the RTX features, like ray tracing and DLSS, like Star Wars Outlaws and Black Myth Wukong. So thank you very much.
No, you're
It's
most
been a
welcome.
pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
And for more PC gaming, stick with IGN.